It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
This week, we're geeking out on Cork Dork.
Yes, there's major Cork Dorkery up in the pod this week as we talk about Bianca Bosker's New York Times bestselling book, Cork Dork, a wine-fueled adventure among the obsessive sommeliers, big bottle hunters, and rogue scientists who taught me to live for taste. But first, Steph, what cork did you pull for today's episode?
You mean my screw cap that I unscrewed?
Hey.
Whatever it takes, right?
That's right.
Well, when Justin drops me off at Whole Foods and runs next door into Wilbur's Total Beverage, he carries out the 2014 Poggio Anime Samel Montepulciano di Abruzzo. So, sounds good to me. I was like, okay, cool, new wine. So, hashtag W25 challenge for Steph. And this is an Italian red made in Abruzzo from Montepulciano grapes. It's a wine to sip while reading a good book like Cork Dork, or to pour with your pizza. So I've had it actually both ways. And what's kind of cool is the freaky deaky label. It's a bright pink label with a drawing of Samel, which is also known as the Angel of Death. And he is a seducer and tempter. And I think it's a very memorable label. And if you bring it over to somebody's house, you can tell them that you're bringing the Angel of Death. So I think that's kind of cool, too. Have you had this wine?
I've not. I'd like to see a potluck. It's like, oh, I'm bringing potato salad. I'm bringing, and we like drinking guys. Shout out. They know about potlucks in Wisconsin. But I would say I'm bringing the Angel of Death.
Yeah.
See you Saturday with my covered dish. But,
exactly.
But no, I haven't. But that's one of my favorite pizza wines. It's a Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, the land of my people.
Yes. What have you got?
So I, too, have a screw top, and it is a unicorn wine. And if you've read the book, you know what a unicorn wine is. But this isn't just a unicorn wine in name only. Look at the label.
Yeah.
Isn't it cute?
That is cool.
So there's unicorn on the label. And so I'm going to open it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is. Opening the screw top. I'm going to go ahead and pour this wine. And like I said, it's not just a unicorn wine in name only. This is the 2015 Pfeffingen Scheurebe.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah, Scheurebe. And that's spelled Scheurebe. Yes, I did forvo how to pronounce that thing. It is from the Pfalz region in Germany. Oh my God, I haven't even started drinking yet. So this is an aromatic grape. And I've had it before. It's been a while, but a lot of people think it's a cross between Riesling and Sylvaner. But now they are saying, as in Jancis and Wine Grapes, although her website still says Sylvaner, they're saying it's an unknown grape. And then somebody else called it a Bouquet Blanc. And I'm like, well, I don't think we really know what the other grape was. But just by the fact that there's Riesling in the glass makes me think it's going to be very aromatic, which it is. And it was created in 1916 by a grape breeder named George Schau. And so now it's in my glass. There's a cute unicorn on the label. And I would love to hear what some of the characters in Bianca Bosker's book would love to say about it. Of course, this is a white grape. And it is, I haven't tasted it yet. So hang on.
Oh, go for it. Let us hear what you have to say. I've never had this wine.
Oh my God. So yeah, it does jump out of the glass. And it's like orange peel jumping out of the glass. So definitely citrus peel.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to this book and like pull out some of the weird like Fruit Loops and stuff that they're pulling out. But unfortunately, that's not what I was trained to do. Oh, hello. And it is dry. It's a medium plus acid.
And that must be is that another Dirk suggestions?
It is.
Cool.
Actually, there is some detectable residual sugar, but it reminds me of like grapefruit, flowers, A little bit of spice, a little bit of herbal there too. So got a little bit of like thyme, things like that. So actually it's a really nice wine. This would be a good food wine. And I've got here with, well, I was eating pistachios, but I've got some Munster cheese downstairs and I think I might have it with that later. So that'll probably be really good.
Cool.
But yeah, this is a fun wine and it does say on the bottle dry. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, all right, hey, what's new and weird? And Scheurebe. Scheurebe is what's new and weird, and it's mostly grown in Germany. It's a German grape. So that's that. Let's dork out. Let's geek out.
Let's dork out. You mean more than we already are, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, we're 6 minutes in. I mean, so let's talk about this book. Oh my gosh. So your first impressions of this book, Steph, while I continue to taste this wine, because it's right now the right temperature.
Well, as we were kind of dorking out before we started recording, I just really liked how Bianca was able to tell. There you go.
Sorry.
Getting your slurp on.
I couldn't resist.
It's been quite
Sorry.
a few episodes since you've done that, Val. So
I know.
You have to embrace that. So I thought that she told these stories in a very concise way, entertained us, and helped us get to know these characters, but without having to draw it out into these really long chapters. I mean, I thought that the style that she wrote was just a great way for, I think I've said great like 10 times already. Obviously, I really like the book, but you learn something, but you don't feel that you've just gotten, information overload. So she's very good at being concise and illustrative. So what did you think?
Okay, first of all, the finish on this wine is stupid long.
That sounds like a really good wine.
It really is. It lasted almost like the whole time you were talking. I'm like still sitting here with this mouthful of grapefruit peel. It's crazy.
What did you pay for that wine?
$20.
Okay. I mean, most great German wines, you can't get, much less than, it always seems like it's around 20, or more.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of phenolic bitterness on the back palate, but I'm good with it. I'm really good with this. This book, there's so much to unpack or uncork here. Because the very first note, like you, I had this it's loaded with stickies. And my first impression was that she not only successfully infiltrated the ranks of the Somms and became one with them, but she also went and became a certified sommelier in a year through the Court of Master Sommeliers. So that's quite an achievement there. But
impressive.
But not even compared to the research that she did in the matter of a year, geeking out with the sensory experts, scientists, perfumers, neuroscientists who get excited about, the brain lighting up, when they smell certain things. She had her brain scanned, went above and beyond while staying, at least in the beginning, perpetually hungover.
Yeah.
In the name of research. I mean, that in and of itself was I was sitting there feeling the physical ailments because I don't like to be hungover. Even when they were having that orgy, and it's not an orgy people think, but it's the Burgundy, what they call Le Palais, where they go and spend $1,500 and have all these Burgundy wines, and somebody's standing behind you with a plate of shaved truffles, and there's this guy just shaving truffles, and just the amount of wine that they ingested that night without even probably tasting. I was sitting on the sofa reading this feeling physically ill.
I was actually feeling at that time that I've had some very similar situations. I know that sounds really ridiculous.
Hard to believe. Yeah.
It's hard to believe, but some of my wine geeky friends also really appreciate having a good time, but opening some of these extraordinary bottles. And so I have been where you just can't believe, you're shaking your head the whole time and just being overwhelmed with food and wine that blows your mind. So yeah, I have been there where I actually have left before a party or a dinner going, I can't believe I don't even remember some of those last wines because I've had too much to drink.
Oh, I know. I've had a few of those as well. Maybe not as decadent. Definitely not as decadent as what happened. But I've had some pretty decent late nights before midterms, but nothing like what went on in this book. It was so over the top. Yeah. But the humor in this book, I thought, was spot on. The historical tidbits and the science and the wine facts and the process, the procedures and the grapes and the vineyards and the crews and all that. But it was these little smart-ass, witty comments,
Yeah.
and just the one-liners. I thought the writing was absolutely brilliant. And I don't say that about a lot of writing, but I really enjoyed her writing, her voice. I enjoyed the way when she went to Germany, that conference that she went to in Germany, and she talked about it was like a support group for misfit scientists. And she describes these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for those of you that have watched Friends, if you saw when they all went to the paleontology conference with Ross, and there's all these like dinosaur scientists, kind of geeking out, and then Ross's friends are like, oh my god, bunch of nerds. It's like being there, okay. and then there's that one scene where they're at the hotel in, I believe it was Santa Rosa, where they all go back to the hotel, all the somms. It was before like a top somm competition, and there was an empty martini glass lying on a table in a lobby, and they all like gathered around it and lined up to smell it so they could try to guess what was in it. I mean, that is...
I know. It was just something else. And because, even you describing it, that's how so much of the book is. You imagine that happening. It's almost like you're watching a movie, the way that she writes. And
right.
So I thought that was just such a great part of this book that even the most beginner wine enthusiasts will appreciate the humor and all of the fun stories and characters. But for people who've been geeking out for years, like yourself and me, holy moly, there were so many parallels and so many times where I was like, I've done that. I've been there. That happened to me. All of these things, especially all of the people crying over not passing the certified somm exam first try. And spilling. How many times did they talk about spilling something? I was seriously like, right. That is so me. That has happened to me. Oh my God. So yeah, I had dog-eared like 34 pages, and some of them were like 4 pages in a row. And you could tell that was at the beginning because I just kept going, oh, and this and this and this. I need to talk about this on the podcast. And I love this so much. I can't wait to tell Val. But then mid-book, I was like, I can't dog-ear the entire book. Good God, Stephanie, get over it, And then towards the end, I started dog-earing again. And it was just kind of one of those things where at the very end, of course, I thanked Bianca out loud alone in my house. But at the very end, I just thought, I can't wait to read this book again.
I want to read it again as well. But what's funny is, all right, so there was this one part of the book, and I remember back when I was military and I was studying for promotion testing when I was still enlisted before I sold out to the dark side. I would, if I wasn't studying, I had this, what they say in the book, it's one of those fields where whenever you're not studying, you feel super guilty and self-loathing. And I totally got that. When I was going through the diploma, I couldn't treat myself to a book that wasn't about something that I needed to know, especially for Unit 3, for the wines of the world. And I was just like, in bed at night, it's like, oh, I can't read something that's not wine related. That's not a good use of my time. And you hate yourself if you indulge in something like, oh, I'm going to read the latest Beppe Severnini book or something.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're not doing something toward the cause.
How dare you, DeVal? How dare you even enjoy maybe a mystery novel or something?
I know. And people were like, have you read this book or that book? Like, if it doesn't have to do with wine and it's not on my reading list, then no.
Yeah.
I haven't read it.
I remember those times.
I hate myself for just stopping to watch an episode of Veep or something. But I love how these characters and the descriptions that she had of them and of the things that they said. The one when they were all describing service, Victoria wearing the ballet flats and exposed too much foot.
Oh, I know.
And then don't stare and don't lean and don't point, don't cross your arms. And then she kind of mutters, no sudden movements, like when she was likening the Som's job to a hostage negotiator.
Oh, I know. I thought of you at that point. I was like, I know Val's going to love this line. Oh, it was so good. Yeah, there was so many parts of it too. And there was something else, speaking of uniforms and what to wear and what are the big no-nos. One of the parts when she met her new friend Annie in the chapter called The Trial, and it was when she went to take her certified somm exam. Annie talks about how this was like, I think, her third time taking it. And the first time she showed up in what she wears to work, because she thought, well, that makes sense. I'm going to be a sommelier, and at the restaurant I work at, I'm going to wear my white shirt, black pants, and my apron. And lo and behold, because she had nobody to study with and had no inside guide or help or mentor like Bianca did, Annie showed up and was wearing totally the wrong thing and had no idea. And so, of course, all of those things they're judging you on, and you're graded on every little dang thing. And I was just like so in Annie's shoes and so in Bianca's shoes. Like, I wasn't really like either one of them, but so just like, I don't know, empathizing with both of them at the same time, going, God, I took that exam multiple times, never had anybody help me. But at the same time, Annie really needed to pass because it was going to change her life financially.
Right.
But Bianca was just doing it because she wanted to. Like, this was like kind of like, okay, I'm going to get this and I'm going to learn this and I'm going to. But it's not like she had to do it to support kids, and a family. And so I was kind of like, well, that's kind of it's like I wanted to get the certified sommelier certificate and the pin and, be able to say that. So it was so cool to read and hear so many different stories and journeys and all of that kind of stuff, because it is personal and it's everybody's situation so different. Like, Val, your story is so different than mine. And yet we have so many common things to share and laugh about.
Well, what's funny is I thought of you during the certified somm exam and your stories and going through it, and people I know who've gone through it, where I'm kind of like, yeah, no, that's not what I was put on the planet to do. But here's another funny tidbit. I've eaten at Zoe's.
Have you really?
So that even brought, I ate in Va Beach, in Virginia Beach. I remember sitting at that bar, and I remember that back room. All of a sudden, that picture is even clearer in my mind. It's so funny. I'm like, oh yeah, I ate there where this test was. And, and of course, there are people in the book that we know. We've had Tim Hanai on the show. We've met Ann Noble at Society of Wine Educator Conference. But I thought one of the most interesting things in the book was when she went from the orgy to the treasury.
Orgy to the treasury.
She went from that decadent night out of that bacchanal that they had at Le Palais. And then she flies, then she's writing about her experience at Treasury Wines, where they're like pretty much engineering wines for people's tastes.
Yes.
How do you even... And I'm not saying one's better than the other, because did you really enjoy the wines at the Le Palais? But I'm kind of like, I guess that's what they call Le Palais. I don't know, my French isn't that good. But we've talked about wines that are pretty much engineered for people's taste, the gimmicky, let me design a wine for you. I'm like, no, I just want to drink weird stuff from the slopes of Germany because that's where it comes from. It's all about what you like. But I think that was like a turning point in the book.
Right. Yeah. That was, because there really wasn't anything talked about those kind of wines, the manufactured type of wines. But I'm so glad that she talked about it. I mean, you've got to. Otherwise, you're really not covering it all. I mean, I don't even know how she really covered as much as she did, not just in the number of pages, but how did she do this all in 1 year? I mean, that is mind-boggling to me, because in everything that I've learned and studied over the years, it feels like it's taken me, part of a lifetime here. But I guess that's the difference, between just saying everything's got to go, I'm studying wine for a year and not doing anything else. And by the way, I'm also,
writing a book and
a professional writer. So you want me to come and, work with you for a weekend or a week or whatever it is. So, she definitely had some leverage that the average person doesn't. But at least we get to experience what she did through her writing. Before we move on, I have to say, I loved and underlined in black ink, because I started to realize that this book was mine, and whether I loan it out or not, I'm going to underline as much as I want. But there's a quote from Victoria James that says, "Wine is freedom. It gives you freedom to meet people you wouldn't otherwise meet, go places you wouldn't go, and try things you otherwise wouldn't get to try.
I love that quote.
Oh my God. I was just like, God, that says it all. I love that. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah. 24 years old, I think.
I know.
Crazy.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
If she can just keep her feet
Amazing.
covered, we're good. No, I think this was my, I'm going to say favorite book of the year so far, because I think she covered so much. She covered so much in a year, but she covered so much in the book, but still made it fun to read. And that is a hard balance to strike. So much information, so much knowledge, so much humor and wit, wry humor and description and storytelling. I'm like, how the hell? That's some banging writing.
Talent.
I am just really, really happy with this book. I want to read it again. Yeah. Now we can move on.
Now we can move on.
You're driving.
Anybody listening, if you've read the book, we'd like to include your thoughts, favorite moments, quotes, opinions, whatever, we will include in our next episode. So please write us. You can send us an email. You can put a post or leave a SpeakPipe message if you'd rather not write it out. And do so by August 15th, and we will get it into the show and or our blog. So definitely that. And then what about our next book, Val?
So our next book, we're going to let you guys suggest what you want to read. So if you were part of this book club, or if you want to get in on the next one and there's a book you really want to get into, let us know. We're going to start that book club on October 15th. So we'll announce it then. We'll give you about a month to read the book. I think a month is fair. The episode will release in mid to late November. There's a book here that Steph wants to read called Neuronology, How the Brain Creates the Taste of Wine by Gordon Shepherd.
So geeky, I know.
Cork Dork. So
I'm just saying, if it's not in the book club, I'm going to read it and tell y'all about it.
You know, of course, if by October 15th, Wink Lorch's next book is out on the Savoie, I probably will suggest that one. But that would be my input as a regional study, maybe. But I don't know. Anything that's got some entertainment quality, too, is always a good way to get people involved. But we'd like your input. So let us know by October 15th. Go into the Facebook group or leave us a SpeakPipe and we'll go ahead and include those in the show as well. Factoid?
Well, there was so many factoids and vocabulary words and historical information in the book, and we're not going to include them all, but we are going to encourage you to read the book if you didn't read it. One of the things that was enlightening to me with all of the sommelier and restaurant speak and all of the jargon was what they were calling a person in a restaurant a PX, a person extraordinaire. And it was like, I had never heard this before, but that's because I never really spent much time working in a restaurant. I mean, I was a hostess at a Chinese food restaurant in high school. Okay, that's the closest I got. But PX, for these people who would drop a load of money on wine, they would put PX next to their name at the reservation list. And they mentioned PX all throughout the book once they dropped that one.
See, and PX to me is a place on an Air Force base where you go shopping, or Army base, BX on the Air Force base. It's kind of like our little store on a base. So there's that. And it also is Pedro Jimenez.
Yes.
So I kept seeing all these PXs. I'm like, boy, these people drink a lot of sherry. and they have like labels for everybody. And I'm like, oh, I'll never be a PX. And that was another thing. It's like $34 for a glass of wine. I think the most I ever spent on a glass of wine was like $29. And to me, that was excessive.
Right.
So I will never be a PX at all. But she had tons of factoids in this book. So we're going to pull this week's factoid out of the book. And it was funny because in the book, she mentions a little bit of history. And it was in reference to wine being, well, a man's world. In 1852, the New York City Somms were all written about in the restaurant world, and the world sommelier, I believe, first started coming out, or reference to sommelier as wine stewards, and they were all dudes, right? The first female somm wasn't really a publicly known figure or creature had seen or trotted out until
monster.
Yeah, it wasn't a publicly known creature until 1943 when an article was written about a female wine steward So I thought that was interesting. Nearly 100 years, 89 years before a woman wine steward was actually, it doesn't mean they weren't there. It was just when it was written about. And I think what else is cool is during the Prohibition era, there was apparently a scoundrel. And if you remember about that time, 1921, that was right after the absinthe was banned, because it was making women slutty and ride bikes, things like that. But apparently, I'm going to read from the book here. A journalist grew so agitated about the possible spread of sommeliers to the United States, and they're talking about from Paris, that even during Prohibition, he took to the Times to rally his countrymen on an offensive against this dangerous breed. So apparently, this article, it's written in the deliberate and ruthless hope of putting out of business an entire class of wage earners. It is written in the firm belief that unless they are driven out of their present walk of life and forced to seek other means of earning a livelihood, their pernicious example will spread from Europe to America and place new and formidable obstacles in the path of the vast mass of Americans playing in the national game of trying to make both ends meet. The wage earners in question are those strange employees infesting the better class restaurants of Paris who are known as sommeliers.
I know. I read that too, and I was like,
what the
whoa.
hell? Come on. So I thought that was pretty funny too. So I think alcohol history is so rich and so interesting. And so while these sommeliers were invading, they were mostly dudes until about 1943. Yeah. This book was
cool.
Was the bomb. I'm sorry. I loved it. But Wino Radar. Let's move on.
Unapologetically, we loved it.
Unapologetic. Love this book.
Yes, Wino Radar. So what's on your radar?
Well, I was flipping through the July Tasting Panel magazine this morning over coffee and blueberries, and my dentist, I hope she's not listening, I saw this Charot aloe liqueur. Have you had it? Have you tried it? Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay.
No. None of the above.
All right. This piqued my interest when I read about how it was made, even more so. And then Meredith May, of course, the editor, made her tasting notes. So it's made with like less sugar than most liqueurs and other liqueurs trying to assault my waistline. But I can't even wrap my head around the flavors and aromas. And she mentions everything from like baked apple to, actually, let me get it. I got it right here. This tasting panel. This is spirit porn is what this is.
That is a good publication.
Meredith May writes, the Charot aloe liqueur at 50 proof is awash with cucumber and spiced aloe on the nose, sensuously textured. The flow of the spirit is silky and sweetly appointed with spearmint and lemon drop flavors. What?
Wow.
Spice aloe, cucumber, lemon drop, spearmint. I mean, this just sounds, I think what they're trying to do here is capture the California essence in a bottle. So that was under an article called The Flavor Favorites. And then they talk about a hibiscus liqueur and an Indian mango liqueur and like all these really cool flavored fun things to add to your bar that are going to last years and years and years like everything else we have done.
Oh, no.
But
what am I going to do with this? I don't know.
But they recommend, putting it with a little tonic water, having it over ice. And I think it just sounds really cool. So
that does
doesn't
sound
it
cool.
Aloe liqueur? I would have never thought about it until I read about the other flavors that were in it. Yeah.
Right. The description.
Yeah. What's lighting up your radar?
I've got 2 new podcasts that I'm kind of checking out. So it's sort of a radar and shout out at the same time because the Corner Table podcast is a food and drink show that's hosted by food writer Lindsay Christians. And that's out of Madison, Wisconsin. And I listened to the Porch Pounder episode, which is their most recent one. And she sits with local wine expert Bob Hemer, and the 2 of them, oh my God, they are so fun. I mean, it's probably, and hopefully, I hope it's what people feel like when they're listening to you and I babble on, but it was so fun. It felt like I was hanging out with these 2, and they used a few terms and talked about a few things that I hadn't really thought of before, and kind of some few cute French terms that Bob was throwing out, and loved it. And the sound quality is excellent.
Rub it in.
And I just, yeah. Hey, we have sound envy sometimes, and other times we're like, hey, we're doing pretty good. But yeah, their sound quality was great, content very relevant, and totally entertaining. So I'm going to keep on listening, and wanted to give you guys a shout out. Nice job, Lindsay. And then I also came across the Philosopher's Zone, which is not necessarily food and wine related. However, their latest episode is, and it was called Wine, A Matter of Taste. So naturally, because we're reading this Cork Dork book, I'm like, oh, isn't that so serendipitous that like it all kind of comes together? Everybody's talking about the taste of wine. Does it really matter? So I am just digging into this Philosopher's Zone, which is an Australian show presented by Joe Galanese, I think is how you say his last name. And that show, I think I might really geek out on that show because even though it's not really about wine per se, just this one episode is. I'll read you a description of their podcast. It says, the Philosopher's Zone looks at the world of philosophy and at the world through philosophy. The program addresses the big philosophical questions and arguments. It also explores what philosophical analysis can contribute to our understanding of some of the fundamental and perplexing issues that face the world today. So that's the kind of shit I like, okay?
So is it kind of like Hidden Brain?
You know, I've only listened to the Hidden Brain once. It does have some similarities. So if you're into the Hidden Brain, you might like the Philosopher's Zone. So totally just checking those new shows out.
Oh my God. My podcast, I'm subscribed to over 50 podcasts, like between 50 and 75. Whoa. I can't listen to them all. I listened to like 5 this morning.
Wow.
And I had them on 1.5 speed. So they're talking really fast.
Yeah, you did. I listened to the Chipmunks.
Yeah. And so I went out for a walk, and I was walking really fast because the podcasts were going really fast.
Your arms are pumping really fast.
Oh, yeah. It was not pretty. But I mean, like, and every week there's another one. I'm like, I'm going to subscribe to that.
I know. Well, what I'm doing a lot now is not necessarily subscribing. I'm just kind of cherry picking.
Stalking.
You know, because I too can't have too many. Yeah. We should move on because we have some shout outs and some Patreon love to shout out. We have new It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care Patreon supporters, Chris and Janet here in Colorado. So we definitely want to give you guys a shout out, especially because you are dear friends. But I know how much you love this show, and Val and I have shared some great wines and some great times. They were at our very first podcast anniversary.
Yes, we love them.
They will be at our happy hour in Portland. And so thank you so much. Big shout out to you guys.
Big hugs, big love. I'm so happy I get to see them.
I know. Yay.
Love it. All right, so where are we next? Patreon love. So we also have our Tenacious Tasters. We have Jeff E. from We Like Drinking. We have Lynn from Savor the Harvest, who lives in Bordeaux and has been posting some really cool stuff lately, by the way. We have Tenacious Taster Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours, who will be a guest on our show, I believe, next month or this month. Later this month. And we have our It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care listeners, Meg, Clay, John, Andrew, Aswani, Chantel, Mary Lou, Kathy, our new tastemaker listener, David in Scotland, Wine-tastic listener, Laura, and you can become a Patreon supporter. And why would you do that? Because you would get early releases of all episodes, exclusive content, shout out swag. And every month we draw a winner for a surprise wine gift for any Patreon supporter at the $2 tastemaker listener level or higher. So if you want to get in on the wine goodies, go to our Patreon page for details. Patreon.com/wine to5podcast.
And please subscribe to our show, share it, link it, tweet it, or Facebook it. You can also leave us a burning wine question or comment on SpeakPipe, and join our conversation on our private Facebook group called Wine25 Community. We also appreciate any reviews on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or anywhere that you find your podcasts. Also, please stop by our website to see our show notes and to visit our store for some shopping. And everything else is on the website, so you can find out how to connect with us and also see where we are on the social spaces. Val is on Twitter at WineGallonBox and as Vina with Val on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And I am on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest as the Wine Heroine, and you can connect with me personally on Facebook. So until next week, cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.